All right, what's going on, sports fans? How you doing? Hopefully, you're having a great day. I know it's been a few days since I've done a episode for you, but if you have been checking out my Twitch channel, I have done a couple of live streams on there. Just some MLB The Show content over there. So I was trying to do some more gaming live streams, but get back into these episodes for you. So with this one, I do want to talk about Jaylen Brown. Now, there's been a lot that's been made about his comments when he was asked about, I guess, his future in Boston. So I kind of want to talk about that, give you reasons for optimism in terms of him not going anywhere. Then I guess I could give you a reason to be somewhat pessimistic about the future of Jaylen Brown in Boston. But first off, I guess let's just start with what he said. So he was basically asked, like I said, about signing an extension in Boston. So his answer was, this is the quote, "We'll see how they feel about me over time, and I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense. But I will stay where I'm wanted. I will stay where I'm needed and treated correct." Looking at that quote, I would say I have no issue with it. What I feel like some people were hoping was that he's going to get asked about it and he's going to pull a Kyrie and say, "Oh, I plan on being back in Boston," which of course we saw how that worked out for Kyrie. Now, I don't think Jaylen Brown is the same personality. And what I mean is, Kyrie said that, then goes to All Star weekend, talks about teaming up with Kevin Durant, and then we know how that story went. I feel like with Brown, what he's basically saying is if the team values him, wants him back, he will resign. What's wrong with that statement? That's literally how free agency goes. As a player, you can say you want to stay wherever. If the team doesn't want you to stay, how can you stay? So that part of it, I have no issue with it. I think where people are trying to create a narrative or maybe are reading too much into this quote was his statement from before where he talked about toxic fans in Boston, his experiences with groups of fans. Once again, I felt like that was overblown because no matter what city you go into, at least we'll say major markets, not every fan's going to like you as a player. Whether it's on the court, stuff you do off the court, you'll always find toxic fans in every city. I do think because it was in reference to Boston, a lot of people outside of Boston read into it because we know Boston's checkered past when it comes to African American athletes within the city. I do not need to bring up that narrative once again. We all know it. We hear it all the time when certain stories happen in Boston. Yes, I get that. Like I said, I do think it's just been overblown to the point where now people are looking at every little thing that Jaylen Brown does, then trying to, you know, wedge it into this quote to try to sway people one way or the other. The other night he got a standing ovation from the crowd, and then people were like, "Oh, look, he wasn't even overly excited. That means he's trying to leave." I don't get why media types do this kind of thing. Look, I'm a Celtics fan. I love watching Jaylen Brown play. I didn't know a lot about him when they drafted him out of California. I knew he was an athletic player, slasher, that type. So, I was like, okay, let me see some more of him. Each year he's improved his game to now to the point where he could be an all NBA player, which is also kind of an underlining story in all of this, because if he does make the all NBA team, that means for the Celtics to re-sign him, the max would be like 5 years, 287 million. We know Tatum has, well, he's max eligible, I think, in a couple of years for like 5 and 300. So I do think some of the same people who for the last couple of years wanted to split Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum up because they swore the two didn't like each other. They don't even hang out. They don't do this. They don't do that together. I never bought into that either, because one, I feel like if they don't hang out, maybe that's just because two different personalities. Whatever. I mean, how much hanging out does Jason Tatum do? I don't know. Most times you see him, it's stuff like with his son, Deuce. Maybe that's where all of his free time goes into. His son. Jaylen Brown, we know he's a intelligent guy. We know he's very outspoken, which is definitely one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of his. And we know in this day and age, not a lot of people, well, I can't say not a lot of people, but there are certain people that don't like outspoken minority athletes. That's, call it like it is. So maybe some of that's getting into this story with Jaylen Brown. So, as the question I have, does Jaylen Brown have a future in Boston? I think he does. There was a lot of reports about, once again, from the media people, of Jaylen Brown not liking his name, being involved in trade talks, KD stuff, which I still say was way more on the Nets end than Boston's end. But, the toxic fan and all that, I believe that interview was before the trade deadline. So I feel like if he had such an issue with it, he could have very easily have gone to Brad Stevens or whatever and said, I want out, do the KD trade, I just want to go. That didn't happen. I'm sure he and Brad Stevens have probably had conversations, as Brad Stevens was once his coach. There was several years, like I said, where Brown's name was brought up in trade discussions, yet he was never moved. So I feel like Brad Stevens values Jaylen Brown as a member of the Boston Celtics. We've seen the growth of him and Jason Tatum together as a duo, to the point where a lot of people look at them as one of the top duos in the league, if not the best duo in the league. So as a Celtics organization, why would they want to split that up when you've seen these two get to Eastern Conference Finals? They made the finals last season. They're a contender to get back to the finals this year. They're both in their mid-20s, so they're both within their prime. Usually that's not a good recipe to now split up the duo. I guess I would assume choosing Tatum over Brown and then trying to build another Tatum Brown connection with, I guess, a new player when you already know what you have in Tatum and Brown. So I fully believe, this is what I think. I think Jaylen Brown makes an all-NBA team. He should. Once again, we'll see how that voting goes, but I feel like he should be an all-NBA player. I feel when the time comes, he gets his 5 and 287 or whatever number they come up with. He stays in Boston. I think when Tatum's time comes up, he gets his extension, and you just ride it out with Tatum and Brown. The pieces around them may change, but I feel like these two are going to be pillars of the Celtics organization for the next, number of years. Like I said, the pessimistic, I guess, outlook you can have is, I feel like this is the only way I can see it. Brown feels like He does want to play second fiddle to Tatum, wants to go be the number one somewhere. That leads to him leaving. We've seen that happen over the course of sports for as long as I can remember. So that isn't necessarily a new narrative. That would just be, his feeling, what he wants to do, and you'd have to respect that. But I fully believe the two of them will be in Boston for years to come. Now, the whole toxic fan stuff, like I said, that's everywhere. Some places is probably worse than others, but I do think that toxicity is out there everywhere because of the world we're in 2023, where some people feel like it's easier to be toxic than to be respectful. So like I said, I don't think there's any way he gets around that, but I feel like Brown will be in Boston. I also think what may help is the fact that Malcolm Brogdon is in Boston for, I believe, the next, it's like 3 or 4 years, I think. Brogdon is another guy, very intelligent, very outspoken. He and Brown, Brogdon and Brown, what was it, a couple of years ago at the height of, Black Lives Matter and all that, the two of them were made the trip to Atlanta, speak out at a rally. Now with them being teammates, I feel like that's something that could keep Brown in Boston as well. Not saying that's going to be a major factor to it, but I think that definitely does help. Brogdon, the way he talks about Boston, seems like he kind of wants to be there. Past, I guess, his current deal that they traded for him, the one he had with Indiana. Like I said, I think it's like 3 years, but almost seems like Brogdon kind of wants to be there longer than that. Maybe Brogdon becomes the next Al Horford once Al Horford moves on. So I really like the way the team is structured by Brad Stevens. Missoula coaching style seems to fit the team. I would love to see them win that title this year, which of course I feel like if they win the title, the people who are pushing the narrative will say, "Oh, see, Brown got his title. Now he'll want to leave to become the number one guy somewhere." Maybe that does happen. I'm not reading too much into the quotes. I feel like what Jaylen Brown said was fine. Adrian Wojnarowski said basically the same thing. He didn't see anything that Brown said as incendiary. He said that's literally the viewpoint you should have as a pending free agent. You just leave it open-ended. Whether you come back or whether you go, you don't have to make it known what you want to do right now. And like I said, Jaylen Brown's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. So, like I said, Celtics fans, don't pay attention to these people who are trying to make it seem like Brown has one foot out the door or something. I fully believe he and Tatum will be together for the next number of years. So I think he definitely has a future in Boston. But, let me know what you think down in the comment section. I'm interested to hear what you feel about the comments he's made. Do you think it tells you one way or the other what Jaylen Brown wants to do once his contract is up? So definitely let me know that. But thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Like I said before, I am starting to do more like gaming streams over on my Twitch channel, which you can find, in my bio and all that. But I will bring them over to YouTube. So if you are, watch this on the YouTube channel, don't worry, the stream will come over there after, after I downloaded everything off of Twitch. I do put it on YouTube, so don't worry. You're not missing out necessarily. But yeah, having a lot of fun playing. It will be the show. So I will be doing a lot more of that as well. But thanks. You already know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. You can hit the dislike button, tell me what you don't like. That's fine. I got thick skin. I can handle it. So hopefully enjoy yourself. Have a great day. And I'll see you the next episode. All right. Peace.